Erin, thank you so much for taking some time to hang with me today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, David.
Well, we are talking about burnout, and I have some experience in that area myself. But I'd love to hear from your perspective. Like, take me to the moment where you experienced burnout. When did you I think most of us that experience burnout, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm here. Like, this is the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, I'm done. Like, what was that
Mhm.
moment for you?
Yeah, it's so interesting as you share that. My mind goes back to there was so much burnout happening unconsciously throughout my entire life. So ever since I was a little girl, I was very high achieving, wanted to do all the things all of the time. Even had like three goals before I started kindergarten: to tie my shoes, ride my bike without training wheels, be able to blow like a bubble with bubble gum. And from that point on, it had always just been, how much can I do? How much can I take on? How many jobs can I work? How many things can I be involved in? How many leadership roles? And just always having so much where I was working 16-hour days or sometimes even more than that, all the way from, high school, college, grad school, and even into starting my first job after that and running my business. And as that was kind of kicking off, so there was this culmination my entire life of just really pushing, forcing, hustling, go, go, go. And I would go to the doctors when I was younger and I'd be like, I'm in, so much pain. I don't feel good. I'm tired all the time. And they're like, well, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. And then I got mono when I was in high school, and I had an enlarged spleen and was hospitalized for a week,
Mhm.
and had then chronic fatigue syndrome from that standpoint. And then later on in life developed pretty heavy adrenal fatigue. And so even then, after experiencing Epstein-Barr virus and chronic fatigue syndrome, still going back to doctors saying like, I don't feel good, I'm tired all the time, like I can't describe it, but I don't think I'm supposed to feel this way. And they're like, oh, you're fine, it's just stress, you have too much on your plate. I was like, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, I'm fine. I'll just keep going and pushing through. And then finally, I used to do figure competitions, like bikini competitions, and also had disordered eating prior to that. So this culmination of hustling, going, not treating my body in a way that was supportive to it, and never saying no, not having good boundaries. I hit a point a few years ago. It's probably 2016 when I was like, I can't do this anymore. I cannot like keep operating. Like, something's not okay. My body was exhausted all the time. I had no energy. I was tired. And that was kind of just my cue of like, I need to go get support with this and begin to heal it. And I need to leave this career path where you're basically praised for how much you can do and how many hours you can work. And that's when I was like, I'm going full in with my business at that point. And 5 years later, we are here. We are here.
Wow, wow. Okay, so that moment when you said, okay, this is too much, like what did you do like that kind of like took you to the next, was it going to therapy? Was it going to spiritual directors? Was it reading? Like what helped you unpack all of that compulsion?
Yeah, it was really diving into like inner child work and inner child healing, where I was like, wow, I am doing this. I'm putting so much pressure on myself. I'm hustling and doing all these things to like earn love and receive love. And when I was working, with a mindset coach back when I had this realization, she asked me who is it that you're trying to earn love from? Like, which parent did you have to try to prove yourself to? And I broke down into tears. And I'm like, I'm doing all of this so unconsciously because there's a part in my system that's still looking for that validation from that, being reaffirmed from, caregivers, from my parents, to receive that love. And so that was like the moment where I'm like, okay, I can't keep operating this way. I need to dive in after doing, personal development work, then realize, okay, we have about a million other layers underneath of that. And that's where I then dove into next.
Yeah. So for me, I started realizing that I was burning out my senior year of college. I had my goal was to walk across the line at graduation twice with a BA and an MA in 4 years. I wanted like that master's to, and so I got married in between my junior and senior year of college. We lived on campus. I was a teacher's assistant for a professor, providing like editing and questions in the back of his book. I was the head photographer for our yearbook and newspaper. I've done photography for 8 years straight in the dark rooms and all this stuff, worked for a newspaper. I worked for Nabisco, stocking cookies and crackers on the shelves to make money. And I was taking a massive load in order to finish my master's by my senior year. And I ended up walking the line twice. And I was so burned out. I had about 75% of my master's thesis done, and I couldn't do the last 25%. I just couldn't do it. Like I was just like, no, I don't want to do it. And so I ended up calling them back and saying, I'm not going to finish it. I'm just not going to finish that master's. I did all of the coursework. I did 75%. I'm not going to do it. And I realized, oh my gosh, why am I doing all this stuff? Like, what is this all about? And kind of had my first little burnout there, right after college. And I started realizing more and more, wow, I'm really compelled to get that A for my dad. Like I would bring home the B in math, and it would be like, okay, well, hey, let's get that up to an A. Or I get an A- on a test, and it was like, could you not, what was, hold you back? I get an A+, 100%. And he jokingly say, was there extra credit? And I realized it was his positive intention of pushing me to excel, but it was my reaction to that was causing this internal, compulsion that frankly, I didn't fully deal with. I'm sure I'm still dealing with it, but I didn't fully deal with it until 12 years ago when I had like a major breakdown after being a workaholic for 10 years as a pastor, total workaholic. And 12 years ago, I shifted that and said, I can't be about performance. I've got to be about peace. I've got to cultivate peace in my life. Peace has to be the number one value above everything else. Otherwise, I'm not going to be a good husband, parent, business owner, anything. So I'm with you. Like I know what this feels like. It's just, dang it, those childhood wounds.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So so when your mindset coach asked you that, was it more your mom or your dad or a grandparent that was kind of that voice in your head? What was it for you?
Yeah, it was definitely my dad. I wanted to receive like that love. I wanted to receive that connection. And I think something that we sometimes get caught up into when we're talking about this kind of stuff is, he was present. My parents were divorced. It's not like he never came to anything or didn't validate me, but for how I received it in my system, it was like, it wasn't the way that I needed to be attuned to as a child. I very much uncovered along the way that I had a deep belief and a deep like honesty of what was happening is I was never met the way that I needed to be met as a child. And that's not something that I could have even described to them that I needed that. Right. And I think that that's something that sometimes we get caught up into is like, oh, well, my childhood wasn't that bad. And we kind of get into this like trauma comparing. And it's like what you went through and what I went through could have impacted us both so like in such a different way, even if we were in the same household. Mm-hmm. And so just really being able to like notice that for myself of like, oh, I just had all these unmet needs. And now these unmet needs are playing out in my life and me trying to prove everything to get that connection, to get that rather than me just trying to like meet them myself, really opening myself up to like receive that love and connection from myself, from others, and doing all the work that kind of led up to all of that.
Mm-hmm. For me, I describe it as I had this, and probably still do at some level, a black hole in my heart of not enoughness. Mm-hmm. So you could tell me I was amazing and I excelled in all these different ways, but it was like a black hole, And until I filled that up myself and go, I'm enough, just the way I am. I don't have to do or be anything else to be loved or enough. Like that's when that hole can kind of dissipate. You write in your book, I love this sentence, I started to bring awareness to the mentality that I am a person who does something, not someone who does something to become a person. Mm-hmm. You're a person who does something, not someone who does something to become a person. Help me understand the difference between those two different approaches to life.
Yeah, I think if anybody's listening to this and you're familiar kind of with the concept of like be, do, have. So, first we become the person that does the thing that then has the desired end result or is able to receive from that place. For so much of my life, I operated in that completely backwards. If I could receive the thing or do the thing to receive the thing, then I would become the person. Then I would become the leader. And it's like, you go first in all of that. And when I realized that and I started becoming that person rather than just thinking that I had to do those things, my life started to like quantum leap a lot faster because I was showing up as that next level version of me. I was showing up as someone who had the love and the connection, the success, rather than trying to prove that to get it. I really had the big realization that things have to shift for me. I have to be the person that does the thing that then has it rather than have the thing, then do what I need to do, then become the person. So that's kind of like my breakdown of that.
How do you do that? Like if someone's listening and they're like, yeah, I just don't, like, I can't even imagine showing us as the be. Everything is just do, right? I got to do these things. I got to meet these expectations. This can be even true if you're a stay-at-home mom that just like doesn't necessarily have a job outside the home, but is just like all of a sudden it's like, got to kid the kids in these certain activities and the kids have to have A's and I got to keep the house a certain way or I got to make these, you know what I mean? Like we can do this no matter what, however we're spending our time. How does those breakthroughs start to happen where I start to embrace, I call it my true identity, like that be part that you're saying? How do you do that? How do you get started?
Yeah, I think, the first thing that comes to mind with that is like even thinking back to some of the childhood stuff that we were just talking about. So many of us were celebrated so much for what we did rather than who we were. Like, I mean, I remember being celebrated for my accomplishments, but there was never like a identity or essence of like that celebration, the celebration of like our being. And so for me, how I would say for somebody who's like, okay, yes, I am starting to get the concept here, but what does that really look like? Well, who are you outside of everything that you do? And when I ask clients this and like, I'm like, who are you outside of your business? Like, who are you outside of all of your achievements? They're like, what?
Nothing.
Like, yeah. Yeah, because it's like we're so like tied into that. And so I'd say even just starting with recognizing for yourself, like, who are you outside of all of the roles that you have, outside of all of your accomplishments, outside of all the things that you do? Who are you at your core? And really beginning to see yourself for that, beginning to recognize and honor and love and support that part of you is where you can begin to shift all of that. Because then you're not focused on all of the outside things or what you're doing. You're focused again on who you are and then thinking about wherever it is that you desire to go. So whether it's to become, a better mom or become somewhere in your business, that next level version of you, let's call her like, your highest self or whatever that resonates with you. But it's like, how is she leading? How is she showing up? How is she responding? How is she reacting to things? How is she holding herself? What are the conversations? And that's always where I'm leaning myself into is thinking about, who is she at her core? And how can I begin to like align myself and not just show up from where I'm at right now, but from where it is that I desire to be.
Aligning myself with not just where I am, but where I want to be. So would you say that even means that I'm taking actions in alignment with who I want to be?
Yeah, I'm not, because if I try to do something from where I'm at right now, then I'm taking action from who I am in this moment.
Yeah.
And that's great. That'll move me forward. But if I want to experience a quantum leap, if I want to experience like that shift, that big next level, then I have to begin to show up as her now before she's here to be able to call that energy into me rather than waiting again, like doing the things to get to that level. Well, how can I show up for that now? So then it like propels me to get there.
So you've used the word quantum leap a couple of times. And I know spirituality is a major part of your coaching of business owners. how does spirituality play into me overcoming burnout, shifting into breakthroughs, embracing more of who I am? Like, how does spirituality, because we've been kind of more talking about therapy, but I'm hearing you say a quantum leap and that there's some kind of spirituality involved. Like, how does that help me
Yeah.
shift from burnout to breakthrough?
Totally. Well, I think, whatever anybody connects into, God, universe, spirit, source, higher power, whatever it is that everybody aligns with, like there's like a deepening and a trust in that. And also if we're looking at the quantum field, if we're looking at quantum leaps, quantum physics, nothing really makes sense there, right? Like things just happen. Like an example I'll give is like we make meaning of whatever is happening in the current reality that we live in.
Yes.
And in the quantum field, let's say an example with like money, the quantum field doesn't know the difference between $100 and $100,000, but we make meaning to it in the field that we're in now. So in like our 5D, our 3D like reality. So if I'm wanting to play with the energy of where it is that I desire to go, then I have to kind of go into a realm of things that don't make sense, things that are not like logical, things that are potential, what's possible out in there.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm always just thinking very much in like this like linear, what can I do to receive? How much more can I do to receive? I'm going to hit a lot of burnout versus if I'm playing in this field of like, well, what if? Like what might happen here, or what might this feel like? I can get my mind into more of this infinity loop and starting to play with that energy, which then snowballs. And so to kind of tie it with burnout, I think we're very conditioned in life to go, okay, what can I do to receive? What can I do to receive? Versus quantum field, who can I be to receive from here? Because anything can happen when we're playing with quantum physics. So that's kind of, hopefully that answers your question of
No,
like
it's
the
good.
connecting of
That's
everything
amazing.
together.
So some of this is, new information for me. I love this. So I can envision myself. I'm trying to restate it so I can understand it, right? So I could envision myself in a new way of being, feeling about myself, feeling about others. I could envision myself experiencing and doing like things that I wouldn't make sense. Like you said, it's non-linear. Because most of the time, if I'm thinking about growing my business, I'm going from step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like in a growth pattern. And you're suggesting that I could go from 1, 2, 3, 10 somehow in not just finances, but in the way that I experience the world, my own personality, my relationships. I think I'm saying that right. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So I can make this quantum jump. And part of making the quantum jump is seeing myself in that reality and like aligning myself with that reality and being that person right now. Am I getting that right?
Yes, you have nailed it.
Okay. And so how do I do that? So like, for instance, will you mind coaching me for a minute? Is this okay? Okay.
Yep.
So I just started this online resource called Rise Up Creatives, right? And it's designed for primarily female entrepreneurs to it's a social media done for you resource where we provide images and template captions and a graphic design studio that's drag and drop. I've spent 3 months just pouring my entire life into this, okay? And my own money. And we just launched last week. And it's great. Everything's great. But it's, starts out small. And in my head, I go, starts out small, just like everything does. Right. So that's the story I tell myself. Starts out small. So this is going to be slow growth with a lot of work. That's the story that I've been telling myself. Okay. So how could I see myself as a different person, different business growth consultant, different owner, different founder, not just having linear slow growth, which it feels like that's how everything in my life has been, is linear slow growth, to take that quantum leap as a new, the owner of this new business and what I'm doing. Like what would I need to do?
Yeah. So I'd say my first question for you would be, okay, so where is it that you desire to go? Like what's the desired end result for this company?
Sure.
So whatever that might be.
Yeah.
And then being able to play with that every single day. So you're not just playing from, let's say, where your next step is.
Yes.
you will get that. You'll get your next step. Of course you will. Like, you're very smart with business. You're going to take the action steps. You're going to do what it is that you need to do. And that will continue to get you onto the next path. But if you're just looking from that next step ahead versus like, okay, my desired end result in 3 years is to be able to, let's just say, like, sell the company and like have amazing passive income coming in. Well, how is that person leading? How is that person showing up? How is that person making decisions? What is that person feeling? And like really being able to see, hear, feel what you're going to be doing there. Because what's happening is, like, if you see yourself like looking through your own eyes and looking at everything that's happening in that, and then you pull yourself out of it. So you see your body then in the picture doing all those things. What happens in the unconscious mind is the unconscious mind goes kind of like, what are those? Like a rubber band, where it's going to pull back and it's going to go, okay, now go get that. Sort of thing. When you see it through your own eyes and then you put yourself in the body of it, it's going to go, let me go work for this. Let me go let me bring this into you quicker. But if you're just showing up from like the next level versus like the level 10 version, then you keep getting that.
Yeah.
So hopefully this answers that a little bit.
So am I envisioning myself from a third person perspective, that individual in the future? Because like the immediate goal that I have with this business is 3,500 subscribers at $25 a month. Okay. So that's $1 million business. That's just a fun goal, right? So 3,500. So do I envision myself in the future from a third person perspective, or do I actually step into my body at that point in time? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or do I do both?
A little bit of both. So first, I'd say step into your body. So you're looking through your own eyes. What will you see? What will you hear? What will you feel when you are this, when you have this $1 million business that's running for you?
Yeah.
And then being able to kind of, notice what you're seeing, what you're hearing, like what makes that really real for you. And then after you've kind of gotten that, you can play with like the submodalities of it. So you can kind of like make it bigger, make it brighter, feel the energetics running through your body. Are you being able to spend even more time with your family? And do you have team members that are supporting you? Like getting really crystal clear on all of that. Then pulling yourself out of it. So then you see yourself in the picture. So then now we are kind of like coming out kind of like third person. We see ourselves in there. What that's then doing is that whole rubber band thing. So look through your own eyes, see, hear, feel, make it real, and then pull yourself out, see yourself in it.
Gotcha. Okay. And do you do this yourself?
Like this process?
Yes.
Oh, every single day.
Every single day. Okay. Yeah. So tell me, when do you do it? How do you do it? Like, do you have like incense and candles and like crystals all around you? Are you like sucking on a crystal while this is happening? Like, I don't know. Like I kid I love crystals, and people yeah. They kid me. I'm like, I just suck on them. That way it's just like getting inside me quicker. Tell me, what do you do? How do you do it?
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's so funny when everybody asks me this question, because everyone's like, what are your embodiment practices? What are your rituals? Like, what are all the things that you do to kind of get into this space? And like, I mean, I love breathwork. I love hypnosis. I love all the things, unconscious minds, somatic work, all of that. But it's really like this constant identity shift, like every single day, where no matter, what I'm doing, I'm coming into something with the identity of the next, let's just say like the next level version of me. So how is she showing up as she comes on to this interview? How is she having a conversation with her partner? How is it that she is feeling into where it is that she desires to go with her business? And it's kind of this like constant reframe of my identity, because with the unconscious mind, there's something called like the logical levels of change. And the bottom two are environment and behavior, which is why a lot of times if you think of like you're starting a new fitness plan or something, where people kind of fall off because they're trying to change their environment and they're trying to change their behavior. If you want something to embed into your unconscious, you have to make change at the identity level. So while yes, I have all these beautiful rituals and journal and pull the cards and have all the crystals and do all the things, it's a constant throughout the day of like, how is it that I want to show up for this? How is the multi 7-figure version of me, showing up in this way? Like, what does that look like? How is she responding? How is she leading? How is she holding space? And then being able to figure that out from that place and constantly like working through that.
Hmm. So a lot of what you've just mentioned sounds more psychological than spiritual. But like, am I getting this wrong? Like, or is there a spiritual component where you're asking the divine or source or God to help you like slingshot me into the future, and that's the divine part? Or because a lot of it you've just described feels more psychological. Help me understand that.
Yeah, so I'd say definitely is very like somatic and very unconscious mind, but there's also the spiritual component comes in because I have so much like trust and faith and a surrender that God universe has my back and that it's going to support me in that I'm not trying to like grasp and control and kind of have that tight grip of where I need to go, because yes, you can like manifest from that place. Like, yes, I mean, it works, right? But I personally, I don't want to have to like grasp and control my way to get there. And so I know that there are, like my spirit team and God and universe and everything that I like personally believe in that's supporting me on that. And so the times when it gets tough, it's like I can lean and know that I'm held and that something bigger is moving me forward. So that's kind of like for me where the spiritual component comes in.
You say spirit team, that sounds like you've got like a group of high school cheerleaders like behind you going, go, Erin, go.
I do. For sure. We all do.
Like angelic cheerleaders.
Yeah. I love that.
Okay. So you believe that we have angelic cheerleaders? Like, seriously, I'm just asking a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like when I call in my spirit team, I'm calling in God, universe, angels, archangels, fairies, animals. I'm calling in like deceased loved ones, ascended masters, Reiki masters, like I got the whole squad that's like coming and supporting me in that. And like I can even feel when I get into like a healing session, like everybody's there to hold and support me. And so that's kind of like how I use like the term spirit team.
Yeah, that's a fun term. I love that.
Yeah.
So some of these things, I talk to people like about these things all the time because I love it. But I'm from a pastor. I was a pastor, for 10 years. Like my background is Christian. All the stuff you're talking about, Erin, is satanic. Like you are demonic. You're going to hell. All those things.
Yep.
Did you come from a Christian background?
Mm-hmm.
Grew up in Ohio? You did. So you're going to hell. Oh my gosh. Help me like, what was the shift for you? When did you go, nope, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to start sucking on crystals. Like what point did you start doing that?
Yeah, well, honestly, it's not that I still don't like, I infuse it both together rather than looking at it so separate. And I think a lot of the times, like with, certain religious backgrounds, again, there is a lot of shame and there's a lot of guilt. And for me, I'm like, that's not the way that we're going to make change. Like, even if you don't agree with somebody's like spiritual beliefs, if you're shaming them and putting a lot of like guilt into them for what it is that they're thinking or feeling, like that's not cool. And I work with a lot of people who, come into that. And there's so much like, like what you were saying, like very much you're doing this wrong. And this has to be this way. And we have to follow this a certain way. And I get that there's everybody's beliefs and all of that. But for me, I look at it as like, I can have like the principles of like Christianity that like I love and connect with. And I can bring in this because if God created everything, right, then he created my crystal and my oracle cards and on all that too. And that's my personal way of like, I love to, still when I go home, like I love to go to church and I can take what feels good in my body and I can blend in like my other perspectives with it. And that's what works for me. And so for me, it's very much like my thoughts in it are like, take what you can and integrate and what feels good for you. What's a yes in your body, what's a no in your body, and release so much of this like shaming that comes from a lot of that.
When you go to church in Ohio, do you take crystals and put them in your pockets?
I feel I always have a crystal like in my pocket and like a million in my purse. So yes, there.
I love it. I don't even know what to talk to you about now because this is all so fascinating. Oh, back to the spirit team. Okay. So, ignorant elementary question, but how do you know that these Reiki masters, like, what if you're just making all this up? Like, what if there are not archangels and angels? And what if there's not Reiki masters? And what if your dead relatives are really just dead and in the grave, or they're up in heaven somewhere and they're not helping you? Like, how do
Yeah.
you know they're helping you? Why do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true, right? Like, do I fully know? But like for me, I feel it. It's
Mhm.
like an energetic feeling in my body of like there's people and everything up above that is supporting me. And so while yes, we can kind of be like, oh yeah, I'm making all this shit up and all of that, but it's like nope, I know like there's just this knowing and feeling in
Mhm.
my body that I'm supported, and I ask for signs. Let's say from my grandma, like that I'm on the right path. I'll ask for like a hummingbird. And then 2 minutes later, a hummingbird shows up. Like that's some weird signs if there's not actually these things. So it's kind of tapping into all of that.
Mhm.
Is my thoughts with that.
Okay, so back to your book, Burnout to Breakthrough. Who is this book primarily for, and what are they going to get out of it?
So burnout breakthrough is really like anybody that's hit burnout, anybody that is, I'd say like a female, or identifies as like a female entrepreneur, especially, but honestly, anybody that's feel like they've had to do so much in life in order to receive. A lot of the book is on like receiving energy, really tapping into like that divine feminine, getting into your body, getting out of like this head loop and cycle, and really coming home to yourself and your needs, and celebrating yourself, honoring yourself, seeing yourself for all the magic that you are. So anybody that is honestly just looking to get into their body, being able to receive more in love, in money, in business, in all of the ways, then this is definitely for them.
And if people want to go deeper and work with you personally, do you have coaching programs? Do you have one-on-one coaching? Help me understand how people can work with you.
Yes, I do one-to-one coaching. I offer also a coaching certification where you can get certified in NLP, hypnosis, life coaching, all of these different techniques and modalities. So those are my two main ways that people work with me.
But the certification is like, you call it something crazy. I'm looking at quantum ripple effect certification. Are you kidding me? You had a serious spirit team that day when you named that thing.
I did.
Wow.
Divine download.
Quantum ripple effect certification. I love that. QREC. Um, okay, so these, as you called them, figure competitions,
Mhm.
aka bikini competitions. Are you
Yeah.
still participating in these?
Oh no, I stopped that many years ago. It was really hard on my body, and it's not something that can be sustained long term. I had so many different like metabolism issues and all of that that definitely contributed to my burnout. So that's actually part of the story inside of my book, is like healing a lot of the body image stuff, because I personally think that leads to a lot of burnout when we're
Yeah.
so focused on body and all of that.
Yeah, that is a huge issue for not only women but guys, but definitely women. Fascinating. All right. Well, Erin, I'm really excited to read your book. I'm excited for it to come
Mhm.
out. It comes on March 22nd, 2021. And it'll be available by the time this podcast is released, and it'll be available on Amazon. People can go find it there. And of course, they can find you on your website, erinnicolecoaching.com, erinnicolecoaching.com, just as it says. But you can swipe up on your phone and click the link, and boom, there's all kinds of free stuff on your website too. And it's just great to meet you. I love your
Yeah.
vibe. I love your dogs in the background. How many dogs do you have?
I have two golden doodles. They're
So
passed out.
cute. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, it's great to meet you. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
you too. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.